तुम्हारा सीजन लगा हुआ है, अब क्या
सर
करो।
वो ठीक है, लेकिन सर हमें कहीं इस पे करना हुआ, जरूरत पड़ी ना फिर देखने की, तो आप
एसीपी भी कर दो। एसीपी पे कर दो।
एसीपी।
एसीपी के तहत एक कैपिटल एसीपी कर
वो तो यहाँ कर लेगा।
हमारा मोबाइल व्हाट्सएप पे निगाहें क्या उसने डाल दिया। अच्छा,
जी सर।
मैं खाना के बाद तक कर दो।
सर हमारे पे। जी सर। बहुगुना जी को, बहुगुना जी को जाना है सर। हेलो। हाँ बहुगना जी, आपका नंबर 7275 0 0 0 1 7 है ना? नहीं तो फिर आप नंबर बताइए, अपना नंबर बोलिए। 9415427765। अच्छा, तभी नहीं जा रहा था। ओके, ठीक, मैं भेज रहा हूँ, देखिए हमारे पास से आएगा, अजय प्रकाश के पास से आपके पास। क्यों नहीं? बड़ी कुछ गड़बड़ है तो खत्म मसला है। नहीं, मैंने ट्राई किया भाई, आपका नंबर जो है उस पे भी नहीं है। आप हमारा नंबर नोट कीजिए, 94151। नहीं, आप हमारा नंबर नोट कीजिए, 94890333। 033। अजय प्रकाश। हाँ। हाँ, 9, इसको नोट कीजिए और हमें इस पे व्हाट्सएप भेजिए अपना। हाँ हाँ, इस पे हेलो भेजिए। हाँ। सर हम लोग कैसे करेंगे? यहाँ से शुरू कर देंगे फिर उधर जाएंगे, क्या करना है सर? वो आपको जो गार्डन सर इनॉग्रेशन कर। ठीक 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 ठीक। हाँ ठीक। सर 10:02 हो गया है अभी तक कुछ सर। जी जी सर। जी सर। वो कहाँ चला गया मेरा, उसको आना चाहिए था उसको। हाँ सर क्या कह रहा हूँ। अच्छा ये कह रहे हैं सर वेटिंग टू बी लेट इन द मीटिंग, सुधाकर जी। कहाँ से इन्हें करेंगे सर। दूसरे वाले लिंक से तो नहीं पहुंच गए सर ये? पता नहीं। नहीं सुधाकर है इनसे पूछे कि कहाँ है? बहुगुणा की तो क्या वो। हेलो। हाँ बताइए। एक सेकेंड रुकिए होल्ड कीजिए। और एक मैं एक सेकेंड ओके। मैं करता हूँ। लिंक लिंक ऑफ द मीटिंग। हाँ कैसे जाके लेंगे? हाँ सर ये सुधाकर जी दिखे, आ गए। हाँ ठीक है जी। जी सर। जी सर।
सर
सर हम
नमस्ते
यहाँ
सर।
पे लिंक कैसे चेक करेंगे, सिक्योरिटी
सर
पार्टिसिपेट टू
नमस्ते।
चैट्स शेयर स्क्रीन समरी reactions view
सर नमस्ते, कैन यू हियर मी सर?
recording is on।
हेलो नमस्ते सर, कैन यू हियर मी
ये
सर?
लिंक कहाँ से करते हैं? गुड मॉर्निंग प्रोफेसर सुधाकर, आर यू एबल टू हियर
सर
मी?
गुड मॉर्निंग सर, कैन यू हियर मी? यस आई कैन हियर
Hold on.
यू।
We are just trying to set in some screen here also. Hello. Now can you hear me?
आई कैन हियर यू सर, कैन यू हियर
Now,
मी?
yeah. Now it's excellent. It's a very nice voice that we can hear. So
ओह
Professor,
गुड गुड।
he is trying to adjust things as you can see, and he is making it possible.
या नमस्ते सर।
नमस्ते नमस्ते।
सर इसका लिंक कैसे चेक करेंगे इस
Sir,
बार?
yeah, sir, जो yesterday evening link भेजा गया ना sir, that is not the right link, sir.
अच्छा, तो ये जो लिंक है ना,
ये जो लिंक है पुराना लिंक है सर.
अच्छा, अरे बहुत कंफ्यूजन हुआ इधर, और इधर व्हाट्सएप वाला ने, गूगल वाला ने भी बहुत तमाशा कर रखा है।
सर वो जरा बहुगुणा शादी कनेक्शन कंप्लीट कर दें।
Sir, are we going to continue on this link, sir?
Yeah, we are continuing on this one only.
Okay, then we need to inform others that it is changed to this. Okay, let me try that.
Yeah, just forward the same to others.
Yeah.
Just put it on SMFI and others.
Yeah.
सर आप कहाँ से परमिट करते हैं इसमें न्यू कमर्स? इसको मिनिमाइज करना पड़ेगा। आप ये सर परमिशन मैं दे रहा हूँ, एक्चुअली यहाँ से कर रहा हूँ अपने फोन से, तो मुझे नहीं लग रहा है कि कोई। द होस्ट हैज अनदर मीटिंग इन प्रोग्रेस। 2 मीटिंग का चक्कर चल रहा है।
अरे क्या बताएं यार, ये तो बहुत बदतमीज है। एक रिपीट वाला हो गया,
हाँ,
वो मैं डिलीट नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ। मुझे 1 मिनट कभी काम करने का मौका नहीं मिला, तो इस बात को अपना
प्रोफेसर सुधाकर,
Yes, sir.
just send the link. Have you shared the link somewhere? Where is it?
Yeah. I have.
Where did you share it?
That SM faculty for MA in WhatsApp I shared it. Because one faculty was asking, one Sabohi, she was asking. She has joined now.
हाँ, एंड प्रोफेसर सुधाकर
Yes, sir.
SMFI लिंक पर भी करते हैं।
हाँ, ठीक है.
At the end, it is 09.
Correct.
से होगा ये तो वंदना खन्ना is there, जयदीप,
हाँ, जयदीप भी आ गए, वंदना भी आ गए, सबको इन कर दिया। हाँ,
Good morning, sir. Sir, I am joining only for some time today. I have another commitment in some time.
Who is that?
Vandana, sir.
अरे every Sunday if you have commitment you will
Sir,
miss.
एक वर्कशॉप के लिए एक्चुअली रजिस्टर किया हुआ है, so they reschedule the time from 10:30 onwards.
They rescheduled and you are going by that.
Sir,
But
it's
invite you in advance, then you don't reschedule that. ये क्या? You know, Vandana, I was just trying to see whether all the faculty members are same wavelength, because I'm going to launch an MDP in which only those people who have attended, they will be requested to participate. MDP parts for working managers, the program, I'll involve 3-4 faculty members who have attended the sessions so that they can speak on that topic. If
yeah,
they
sir.
are not attending, they will not be able to speak on that topic. And this faculty group is being groomed to conduct MDP for working managers.
Yes, sir. I understand that, but unfortunately today it's clashing.
Don't worry. Don't worry. Problem is these days we get speakers, not listeners.
Sir, after so many years in this profession, we have become used to of speaking only.
You are quite right. Actually, you are quite right. What will happen when we conduct MDP with the help of you all? Then, if somebody is saying something else by static laws, and other person has another understanding of static laws, they will confuse working managers, whatever clarity they have. That is why I'm having this program, so that everybody is talking the same language, they understand the same way, they don't cross each other's point, because if somebody is saying something and I understand the same way, I'll not question them. Now, bringing faculty members at the common wavelength is not easy. It has not been done so far. We struggled in IIM itself. I teach something, so there are as many strategic management subjects as number of faculty in the country. Each one talking in his own way what is strategic management and not demonstrating how to use the strategic management. So today, Vandana, you will be missing one thing, is strategic loss, how to demonstrate how strategic loss takes place, and that we are going to demonstrate today. And you
Sir,
will,
I tried to do the parallel processing. That's why I've joined by the mobile, but I am sure there may be some deviation.
the choice is yours.
I know.
शुरू करेंगे।
Namaste everyone.
नमस्ते।
सर प्रणाम।
Namaste, sir.
अरे अरे मोगना जी, आप शुरू करें। मोगना जी
चालू करें?
जी शुरू करें।
वेरी
चालू
गुड।
करें अंकल?
यस यस।
मेरे कंठ बसो महारानी, मेरे कंठ बसो महारानी, मेरे कंठ बसो महारानी, तेरे स्वरों को अपना छड़ी, तेरे आओ मैं अपनी मेरे कंठ बसो मेरे कंठ बसो।
स्पीकर पास कर ले।
जीवन का संगीत भूमि, जीवन का संगीत भूमि, आशाओं का गीत तुम्हीं, आशाओं गीत तुम्हीं, मेरे सिर पर हाथ रखो माँ, मेरे सिर पर हाथ रखो माँ, सरस्वती कल्याणी। मेरे कंठ पर लय और ताल का ध्यान दो, लय और ताल का, लय और ताल का ध्यान दे हमको, लय और ताल का ध्यान दो, स्वर तर गम और तान भी दे दो, सब सुधा से और दो दामन, सब सुधा से हर दो दामन, मैया चके तुलानी। तुम सागर में डूबे पैया, सागर में डूबे पैया, तुम चंदन हम पानी। कल्पना माइक से करेंगे, अगली बार से आवाज कम है।
जी अगली बार ऐसे ही करेंगे। मैं एक बढ़िया कॉलर माइक आपको देने वाला हूँ जिससे आप
आवाज नहीं आ रही। हाँ, माइक से करेंगे अगली बार।
हाँ ये
ठीक
ऐसा
है
एक एक्सपेरिमेंट था कि क्या ये पॉसिबल है। तो
जी।
आज पता चल गया क्या क्या इसमें इम्प्रूवमेंट जरूरी है, जिससे आगे से जो प्रोग्राम करेंगे उसमें
जी।
15 मिनट कोई सरस्वती
हाँ
वंदना
हाँ हाँ
या कुछ करेंगे,
जी
उसके बाद प्रोग्राम शुरू करेंगे। क्यों शिव?
जी अंकल, ठीक है।
ठीक है।
आवाज कम है बहुत ज्यादा।
अब आवाज आई?
हाँ अब आ रही है, आवाज कम आ।
आप भी माइक ऐसे ही रख लिया करो।
अब माइक लगा लेंगे अगली बार।
हाँ।
आज तो करेक्शन में दिक्कत हो। माइक है मेरे
Thank you,
पास।
sir.
हाँ शिव त्रिपाठी, अब जो जो लोग अटेंड
जी, सर।
करेंगे।
अगली बार से माइक लगा लो।
नमस्कार साहब, नमस्कार।
Namaste, sir. Namaste. Thank you.
जो लोग अटेंड करेंगे, तो जब मैं एमडीपी लॉन्च करूं, अब ये वर्ड कहाँ से आकर हमने डाला। अच्छा ओके, हाँ सर करिए बात, करिए तो आप ही कर लीजिए। मैं इसलिए कर रहा हूँ कि देख रहा हूँ कि कौन लोग क्लास ले सकते हैं, कि जब मैं एमडीपी एक लॉन्च करने वाला हूँ उसमें एज ए गेस्ट फैकल्टी किसको इनवाइट करूँ। तो अगर क्लास ठीक ठाक जाता है तो मैं रिस्क ले लूंगा उनको अपनी जगह क्लास देने का। अगर नहीं जाता है तो फिर नहीं करूंगा, क्योंकि वो वर्किंग मैनेजर का होगा, वहां मैं अपनी नाक नहीं कटाना चाहता। फैकल्टी मेंबर्स एमंग फैकल्टी मेंबर्स आए ना आए, समझे ना समझे, हमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, लेकिन वर्किंग मैनेजर्स के साथ मैं अपनी नाक बिल्कुल नहीं कटा। तो मैं बात किया है किसी से, हो सकता है एक पहले मॉड्यूल का वर्किंग मैनेजर्स का प्रोग्राम है। अगर होता है तो जो लोग क्लास अटेंड किए जो बोल सकते हैं उनको इनवाइट करूंगा, लाइक को फैकल्टी। तो उस तरह से आगे वर्किंग मैनेजर्स को स्प्लिट करूंगा। The very purpose of grooming faculty member was spread management education to working managers. It was not for faculty development only. Faculty development only to the extent that we need a critical mass of 30-40 faculty members, so that we can have large scale MDPs conducted by faculty members themselves. I am going to disappear. I have already mentioned that I'll not be conducting class anymore. So 12th onwards, you people have to take charge and do it. I don't even know how to arrange Zoom meeting. And if I miss, then I don't know what to do. And today we are going to inaugurate a park in front of my house, which is a land which was being used as a kudagar. Nobody bothers. It's 1,500 square feet area. So I spent 30,000 rupees for buying flowers and 3 benches. Put up a gate with the help of Mr. Boguna and see whether people pluck the flowers and ruin the plants, or they allow it to sustain and bloom so that from time to time they can have flowers. So we are going to have this because this park is there since 2000. 24 years have passed, and this park is not being used as a park. And then the very question, why park? And that is why I have this experiment on renovating a park to see whether it can happen. And if it is being used, that is stopping strategic loss. 1,500 square feet in a prime location of Janakipuram, whether you don't get a plot of 1,500, and that is being lost. So why not put it to use? So this is what we are doing, and let's see how it grows. Chalo, Ajay, you start.
जी सर
Now I'll disappear.
जी सर परमजीत जी एक रिक्वायरमेंट था आपको मैंने उसके अंदर एक अभी डाली है क्या कहते हैं पेन ड्राइव तो पेन ड्राइव में से एक फाइल मुझे खोलनी तो उसको इधर से खोल अच्छा श्रीनिवास भी आ गए ये कुछ उस पे है के अंदर ये और we're just starting in a minute. Just give me a minute to go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you, sir?
नहीं दूसरे फोल्डर में नहीं रिलेटेड दोबारा से निकालिए तो निकालिए दोबारा कर दो एक सेकंड निकालिए तो करो
कैसे जयदीप सर बहुत दिन के बाद दर्शन मिला
सर बहुत समय के बाद आपसे भी मुलाकात हो रही है 1 साल कुछ दिन हो गए हैं एंड ओनली देन आफ्टर दैट वी आर मीटिंग अगेन February 25th थी तब हम लोग February 20th को मिले थे लास्ट टाइम
सही ट्रू
so after that it is now I think in the meantime no activities from my end which could have led to a meeting just a second let me start off
या शालिनी मैम वंदना मैम गुड मॉर्निंग
Morning.
Good morning, Dr. Srinivasan.
मॉर्निंग सर गुड मॉर्निंग सर हाउ आर यू सर कैजुअल टुडे इन राजकोट सर टुडे शिव सर
Ji, Rajkot. We are in same state.
wow sir today I'm coming to
Anand.
Anand
Zoom से इससे नेट कनेक्ट करके देखिए कैसे हो सकता है कर दीजिए
tomorrow they arrange some interviews for faculties
Okay.
so coming to Irma
Plan Rajkot also.
एक दिन से नेक्स्ट टाइम प्लान करेंगे वो इंटरव्यू के लिए आया फैकल्टी का उमाकांत जी बुलाया है बोला आना सीनियर आ जाओ सर अभी निकलने का 12 बजे फ्लाइट का निकलने
So let me start off. A very good morning to all of you. I'm really happy to see so many people over here. We have with us Sudhakar GP, who is there going ahead as a co-speaker, or I am a co-speaker with him in this specific session. So today happens to be the second part of this specific edition where teachers are teaching to the teachers. In fact, no one can teach a teacher. Other than that, what is required is we are just trying to connect on some of those specific issues. But yes, obviously, what is important is that there has been a teacher who has actually taught all of us and he wants us to teach each other. So it's on his directions that we are trying to connect. And one of the most important parts that I come across while we've been going ahead on this specific teaching is that every time I find that there are lectures, he comes out with a practical lecture. So that's what Srinivasan ji has witnessed. That is what Professor Shiv Tripathi has addressed and he has looked at. That is what Sabuhi has looked at. And Vandana ji, Sudhakar ji, Jaydeep ji, Shalini ji, all of us, we've gone ahead with those specific issues. And today, if we look at the first part where we say it's the strategic loss, and you see how he introduced this specific issue of strategic loss today. where he comes up once again and identifies a specific piece of land, which he says is a park, and he identifies that for the last 24 years, there's been a strategic loss because of this piece of land. And he spends around 30,000 rupees on this specific piece of land, just for the purpose of understanding as to why not make this specific strategy of going ahead with what we had actually been sold. Whenever this specific place was sold to us, that is to say that we went in for buying these houses over here, these flats over here, we were told that there is a small park. But for that whole period of 24 years, this specific place has not been used. But once this is being used, this is some kind of a conversion of a strategic loss into a strategic benefit. Now, yesterday, one of the very important questions that was raised by Professor Arun Sahayji was that if it is lost, should it be strategic? So, yes, one of the answers is already there. The way I will like to approach this specific answer is by going through the concept of corporate strategy, whereby we try to understand as what Kenneth R. Andrews says and how he goes ahead with this specific issue of corporate strategy. At the time when he came up and he was interested in writing this book, what led him to write this book was a completely different kind of a setup and interest. And this specific interest and setup was related to how the Japanese and the Americans, they were trying to bring in businesses. They were trying to create the whole of the concept of going ahead with industry. And looking at Andrews's interest, it was found that he was actually trying to question as to what are those specific issues which lead the Japanese to come up and express themselves strongly in the area of businesses and become successful. So if we look at most of the parts have actually been taken from there with respect to the theoretical concept, and then we will get down to the specific case of the strategic loss, which was given to me on this specific aspect. So one of the reasons what Andrews felt was that there was hardly any measure given in the literature for strategic loss in terms of opportunities foregone, but not trying to encash them. So that is where it all comes up. And the second one that comes up. अच्छा, अभी Zoom connected नहीं है ना? कर लीजिए अभी कनेक्ट फिर लीजिए वरना क्लास के बीच में करो आप आराम से करिए माउस सीधे अच्छा okay so and the second one now this is some part which I have taken up from the issue of the strategic loss which comes up in the case itself. So the first part it says is that the strategic loss is in terms of the opportunities foregone but not trying to encash them. So that is what we are talking about, the strategic loss. And the second line that I have picked up from the case is lack of genuine interest of most members of faculty, especially the Rai Sahib ones, who were ready to give unsolicited advice on any issue without assuming any responsibility, and a good percentage of members of the board of governors not taking interest in the growth and development of the institute. Now, this is what is bringing in as to what are the reasons or the drivers of the strategic loss. Although this is just a small part of the whole of the concept of how Andrews comes up with this specific issues. So let's see as to what this contrast is. And when we talk about Andrews and writing of this book, let's get down to a scenario which is around 50 years back. So it is around the around 70s or 80s when he comes up with this book. And what he says is, it is the strategic perspective which actually looks at how we are going ahead with developing a strategy. So what he identifies is that the Japanese management appears to be more truly strategic than improvisatory. So he says, when we are talking about a strategic intent, the strategic intent lies more in the time frame. How he expresses time frame? Here he says, when we are talking about the American concept, the Americans are actually going ahead with a shorter span of time, trying to bring in successes much more frequently than they would in case of the Japanese. So Japanese would come up with this specific kind of a structure. So for increasing productivities, the Japanese, they would come up with speeding up the transition of new products from laboratory to market and winning consumer loyalty with reliable high quality. They are held to be equally skilled in cooperating with government to succeed in export markets rather than only competing with each other domestically. Now, if we look at this expression that Andrews draws from how Japanese were coming up, it's much more not only about improving their own selves, but it is also about bringing themselves into the international market. Yes, one of the bigger issues which comes up is that Japan happens to be a small country where the population is not as much as it is in America. But even then, the perspective of Japanese is very different from that of Americans. So the Japanese industry has been blessed by temporary advantages like the strength of dollar in relation to the yen and support. Yeah. Just a second, we're trying to adjust once again. दूसरी मीटिंग तो नहीं आ गई? देख लीजिए, जब आज यहीं बैठ के कर लीजिए, आप जब आ जाए तो हम तब कर लेंगे, उससे जब तक हम कर रहे हैं ना. So Japan is looking at pressures for steadily improving quarter by quarter earnings, and this is moderated by bank ownership of company shares, the recognition that modernization of plant, development of new technology and products, and movement into world markets takes time, and reward systems that do not depend on exclusive virtuosity. So in a combination of circumstance, vulnerability, loyalty to the value of hard work, product quality, and modest as well as future-reaching innovation. So if we're looking at all of these points, what is drawn out is that we are able to come up with a structure, with a strength that is not only talking about today, but it's talking about a longer period of time. Now, let's look at the structure of United States. Now, when we talk about US, the pressure to keep quarterly earnings increasing regularly to support share price is intense over there. So what they are looking at is a shareholder interest. Huge pension funds are managed by persons judged by short-term performance who have the legal fiduciary obligations and vulnerability to lawsuits, which encourages them to maximize real short-term benefits to the disadvantage of intangible and uncertain future benefits. So that is how America is looking at. So that is the major difference which he tries to come up with. Now, so what advanced Japan? So once again, there are certain things that come up over here, and he puts out as to what has advanced Japan. he draws that there is a national consensus. Despite the fact there is an absence of natural resources, the survival meant allegiance to long-term goal of equaling or surpassing world standards of performance in the conversion of raw materials and technologies into finished goods. So if we look at how Japan emerged around 50 years back, this is what came up. They did not have a lot of natural resources, that's correct. But if we talk about quality, so most of the quality systems, they emanated from Japan. And if we talk about quality systems, they are the ones who are pioneers of how innovation comes up in terms of quality at that point in time. Not only that, they even crafted some of those strategic concepts which are taught and which are applied today in terms of quality. So that is how it is. So what could be the various ways in which we can lift up these resources? How can we identify as to what can be optimized and at what place? These could be in the form of, number one, ethnic and cultural variety. Second one is confrontation disorder in relations between government and business. And C, the values attached to individualism. If we just have a small structure over here, we can easily see that yes, ethnic and cultural variety, as well as confrontational disorder in relations between government and business, as well as the values attached to individualism, they form an important part. इसको हटा दें उसी से बोल दीजिए ऑन है ना तो इसको बंद वो कर दिया आपको और यहाँ ये अनम्यूट करें कि नहीं करें अनम्यूट थोड़ा सा पानी पी सकते हैं The screen sharing disabled है करूँ स्क्रीन से Okay, I hope you're able to hear me. I think it goes, so fine.
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see the slide also.
Okay, thank you. So it's just a complete, I've not gone ahead with any kind of a PowerPoint. It's just a write-up and we are trying to just put it over here. So what were the issues that were able to advance Japan? When we are talking about, like we said, the national consensus, the absence of natural resources, the survival meant allegiance to long-term goal of equaling or surpassing world standards of performance in the conversion of raw materials and technologies into finished products. The same thing, as I said just now, they came up with issues like technology, and that is how they came up. They were able to enhance that specific structure. So they considered the resources that were there at hand, their distinctive capability of an industrious people, the values that they held, and their sense of responsibility to their companies and their companies' responsibility to their society, and the commitment that animates the pursuit of purpose combined in an almost too perfect and larger than life illustration of the concept of corporate strategy. Let me bring in the case also over here. When we talk about the issue of strategic loss from this point, and let's straight go first to what we are actually asked to connect in the case. We are being drawn to connect with, critically evaluate the impact strategic failures mentioned in the case. Do you find any difficulty in assessing the same? And if we look at the case, we go ahead with the first part. I've already read the two important parts which are there about the case as to why people were one of the most important drivers in this specific case, whereby we were going ahead with a strategic loss. But over and above that, if we look at, they say that the last and perhaps the most important was the style of many directors. It also says one of the reasons he felt was there was hardly any measure given in the literature for strategic loss in terms of opportunities foregone, but not trying to encash them. So here we are talking about the strategic loss that a specific institution was not able to come out with some of those strategic optimizations, and that led to a strategic loss. Now, once again, let me read what I have written over here and then connect with it. When we talk about the case talks about an institution which could have been, the canvas of which could have been much more bigger. It could have been an institution which could have come up with supplying a lot of strength to the society. But probably what was not understood was what is the essence of establishing an institution? Why do we establish what we establish? So if we understand what we establish, we will be in a position to come up with expanding it and elongating it. So let's read this out once again, where we say that the resources at hand, the distinctive capability of an industrious people, the values they hold, and their sense of responsibility to their companies and their companies' responsibility to their society, and the commitment that animates the pursuit of purpose combined in an almost too perfect and larger than life illustration of the concept of corporate strategy. So here we are talking about how the corporate strategy has to be drawn, despite the fact that someone might be strong enough to go ahead and overtake any of their competitors. But until and unless the strategy is clear, we are not in a position to understand as to how to go about it. So for that, we said we need to understand what should be there. There should be three things, as Andrew says, and he says ethnic and cultural variety, confrontational disorders, as well as the value attached to individualism. What were Americans losing on? We did say that it's about strong pressures for achieving short-term results at the expense of investment. So they were onto that. They did come up with large investments in terms of research and development. Now, this is the part of the book of Andrews on corporate strategy. But they said that the 3/4 of the amount that was invested was by private organizations on the research and development part. So more or less, where we said individualism, that is how Americans work. When an individual is spending this amount, automatically what is going to happen is they are going to try and go ahead with much more of shareholder value than of stakeholder value. Whereas in comparison to the same, if we talk about Japan, you will see that it was a national policy that they had drawn, and that national policy was completely different. They came up with a lot of research. They came up with a lot of those structures, and it was driven much more by the country itself. So let me go ahead with the next part, where it says the argument of Andrews on corporate strategy is that pressure-induced distortions of the appropriate balance, they can be countered. And what he says is, management of a corporation with a future better than its past requires clarification of company objectives, confidence that comes from commitment to a future-oriented program of action, and determination that careful formulation of plans rationally supports. Now, here, probably what we had done in the last on last Sunday was we came up with what is the vision, what is the mission, how it should be aligned, how it should come up. The whole of the strategy, when we say the strategy is only going to be successful when it percolates down to the last person. If it does not percolate to the last person, we cannot be sure, or maybe let's put it other way, we are pretty sure that it's not going to give us a strategic advantage. We are going to be facing a lot of strategic hurdles. But the moment it percolates to the last person, we can find that there is a smooth sail. Now, I did come up with the stretching out as to what business policy is, and this specific issue of business policy is just to identify as to how it may be different from the corporate strategy. But yes, business policy is also drawing much more about what is the policy. It is the study of the functions and responsibilities of senior management in a company, the crucial problems that affect the success of the total enterprise, and the decisions that determine its direction, shape its future, and produce the desired result. So it's more or less something which is cast in stone. So that is where it comes out drawing about how executive should function, how the responsibilities of the executive are. So that is how they are trying to put it, and not only the executive, but also the senior management. Now, going ahead, I'm not going ahead with a lot of this detail because it might take a lot of this specific time, but we'll go ahead with it, and then we finally come down to the specifics of the case. So at any rate, the functional strategy, for example, in marketing, manufacturing, research and development, and finance can be identified in any consciously managed company. It is a combination of purpose and policies that guide the conduct of the function. Now, first we try to go ahead and understand as to what business policy is. Now we are talking about functional strategies. So each and every function is also cast in a strategy, but it should come up under the overall corporate strategy of the organization. So what is the concept of corporate strategy? It is a comprehensive enough to include the business strategies guiding the divisions or product lines of a diversified company. Like business strategy, it includes both formulation and implementation, which interact upon each other. So like business strategy, it defines products and markets and determines the company's course into the almost indefinite future. Sooner or later, the corporate strategy incorporates non-financial goals in organization, human and ethical terms. A company will have only one corporate strategy, but many incorporate into its concept of itself several business strategies. So there can be many business strategies that emerge, but when we talk about the corporate strategy, it is a combined individual structure that we extend. And that is how it comes up as the corporate strategy. So once when we are moving ahead with this specific firm-specific strategy to corporate strategy, we pass from specific economic objectives to broader organization goals. More weight is given to such characters as unity, coherence, consistency, purpose, and concern for the future. Now, the time horizon grows more distant and market share percentages give way to a more comprehensive vision of company's development as an institution. Now, let me once again bring our specific context of this specific case, where let me put it now that this is a case where the writer has also been an important construct in coming up with this specific institution. The institution is Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. And this specific institution is being visualized over here. So this once again happens to be a real-time case. What is being visualized over here is actual practice, what actually happened at one point in time. Whenever this specific institution was coming up, so Narendra Mohan, the central point of this specific case, in the year 1986, when this happened to be the 5th institution to come up in the country as important part, which was coming to go ahead with teaching India how to go ahead with corporate strategies. And that was the intent of establishing it, because it was an extension of how I am Ahmedabad, I am Bangalore, I am Calcutta, they had come up. So on the same count, this institution was also expected to create managers for the country. Now, not only managers, but it was understood that way back in 86, India, which if we look at it today, from what it was in 86 through 2024, the population has grown strongly. There is a very strong transgression from the number of companies that have come up, the number of organizations that have been there, the overall organized structure which the country has today is much more different from what it was in 1986. Not only that, globally also, the overall structure of corporates, the number of corporates, the net worth of corporates, it has grown strongly. So, Dr. Srinivasan, are you interested in saying something?
No, sir. Let's proceed.
Okay. So that was a specific time when, if we look at how the whole of this structure has been leveraged since then, and that was the intent of creating it. Now, let's try to understand as to what the case says. The case says that there could have been many of these setups that could have come up, and there are 6 setups which have been put up over here. Setup number 1 talks about creation of a management center for developing countries. And here we talk about that in 1988, at the time when Association of Management Development Institutions of South Asia, they were coming up, this institution had a chance to participate. Now let's try to analyze as to what would have been the difference if we could have participated in it, and if we would have participated in it. Let's take a small case of India itself. Every time when we look at in the news, we talk about some kind of cooperation and coordination. We are always talking about one of those developed countries. Mostly we say that it is some kind of a collaboration that we are making with United States or Germany or United Kingdom. Now, every time we are looking towards one of these bigger GDPs, what is happening is they are in the giving position and we are in the receiving position. Seldom do we go ahead with any kind of receipts. But once when we talk about this South Asian Institute, what we say that what we can have a look at is most of these South Asian countries, they were either neck to neck or maybe below what India's GDP was there at that time. And if not only GDP, the way we had those managerial capabilities, we would have been in the giving position. The more we are in the giving position, the more we can expect to go ahead and gather in terms of the net worth and come up with the gross domestic product of our country. If we look at one of those countries like Bangladesh, you see America has been able to go ahead and convert that country as its own production center. If we talk about textiles, if we look at any of those outlets in US, we very clearly find that it is everything which is being produced in Bangladesh. Most of it is being produced in Bangladesh and that is being sold over there. Even in terms of pharmaceuticals, if we go to UK, you will find most of the pharma products are produced in Pakistan. So where we could have actually leveraged, it could have been some of these countries. It could be Sri Lanka, it could be any of those Southeast Asian countries. So there could have been these structures. So once again, let me read this. As we ascend from a specific strategy to corporate strategy, we pass from a specific economic objectives to broader organization goals. More weight is given to such characteristics as unity, coherence, consistency, purpose, and concern for the future. And the time horizon grows more distant, and market share percentages give way to a more comprehensive vision of the company's development as an institution. And with that, let me put up the second issue which comes over here, which says that we were missing an opportunity of becoming the largest institute of management in India in 1992 in terms of postgraduate program intake. In the 8th year itself, there would have been, we could have, or this institution could have become the biggest intaker. Instead, systematically demolished physical infrastructure which was created over a period of 6 years for 2 sections. So somewhere where the initial infrastructure was created for the purpose of going ahead with education, but later on more grants come up and we say now we have to establish a complete institute. So that is where even the initial infrastructure gets demolished, and then there is a new infrastructure that comes up, whereas that infrastructure could also have been utilized. And then we come out with the third part, which says there was a missing opportunity of creating the Euro India Management Center. And in 1992, 91, 92, first of its kind, which could have developed the support of Euro-Asia ties. So now it is not only talking about some of those countries which could have been below India's GDP, but we are also talking about many of those countries which are developed. If we consider Europe as developed, so that could have yet been another hand-holding, and that whole hand-holding could have even percolated to the first connection that was there. The next one was creation of Academic Resource Park in 1995, and the director issued the order but did not allow action. Let's talk about this park for a second, where we say if we had this park, even 2 years back when we were going ahead with our 25th SMFI celebrations, there was a small heated debate which we came up with, and we said that even today, most of the institutions which are related to management development, they are not able to procure and secure a lot of strength in terms of journals from India or abroad. And we said that there were many of these resources that when we come up with as teachers of management from Indian management institutions, we don't get them because the institutions don't have enough money to get these journals. And they also do not have enough money to get a lot of papers published. Now, that is where these structures come up. Had this center come up at that point in time, the Academic Resource Park, it could have even impacted this specific area where we could have had generated many of these journals from India having a high index factor. And maybe we could even have created a manner in which, for example, we say it is a ABDC ranking, it is a FT50 ranking and things like that. So we could have created a ranking of our own, which could have given a lot of strength to our own resources. So this is something which we could have come up with the Academic Resource Park. The fifth point where we come up in the case is mutilation of management teachers program design. We all have been a part of the same. We highly appreciate it. Sorry. We highly appreciate it. All the people who are joined over here today are only through management teachers program. But this is a management teachers program of a Strategic Management Forum of India, which has been created by an individual. Now, the whole of this structure could have been created under this specific institution. There have been many of those efforts to progress with it. We also try to go ahead and understand the commitment of the same. But even once when we have a look at it, we find that we are not able to go ahead with a two-digit structure of audience and speakers once when we are conducting such important programs. It is not about that people are not interested, but probably somewhere in their CVs, this specific structure might not be counted, and that might be leading to go ahead with some kind of a structure where they are not coming up with this specific participation. Now, if this specific management teachers program comes out as a final structure, we could have seen a lot of participation. I'll just try to corroborate, I'll just try to go ahead with another structure of the same kind. The UGC has created a structure of human resource development in the universities, HRDC centers, human resource development centers. And they come up with a lot of academic programs which have academic progressions in the lives of teachers, the academic lives of teachers. They come up with refresher courses, and then they come up with orientation courses. And that is where many of the teachers, they go ahead and attend these courses. So same kind of a structure could have been created through this, and we would have seen that many people in the country would have actually participated. The kind of publicity that would have been there, it would have been much more. And with so many management institutions all across the country, we would have seen many of the teachers coming out with this specific structure. Let's come down to the last and very important part. That is the lukewarm response to setting up first professional body. So SM Forum is a critical area of strategic management. Killed the only initiative of grooming the management teachers. So once again, even this kind of a structure was not given a lot of response. It was a lukewarm response, and it did not come up with such kind of a strength. So if we look at critically evaluating the impact of strategic failures, which were mentioned in the case, these are the specific issues. But now let me come down to the next part of this specific expression that we are creating over here on a strategic loss. Can we improve this strategic loss? And once again, let me relate this to Andrews only as to how can we actually come up and improve upon this. So just let's have a see through that. Let me read out as to what is corporate strategy. Once again, corporate strategy is a pattern of decisions in a company that determines and reveals its objectives, purposes, or goals, produces the principal policies and plans for achieving those goals, and defines the range of business the company is to pursue, the kind of economic and human organization it is or intends to be, and the nature of economic and non-economic contribution it intends to make to its shareholders, employees, customers, and communities. Now, here the last line is very important. The last line clearly says it intends to make its shareholders, employees, customers, and communities. The moment we look at the whole of this structure, we are able to go ahead and understand as to what will be the longevity of the organization. If we relate these definitions to many of the organizations, we'll find that many of these organizations, they failed because they were not able to relate one of these specific issues within their organizations. Let's have some of those successful organizations. If we talk about Tata's as a complete group, we find that they connect very strongly with this corporate strategy, and probably that is the reason they've been existing as one of those big organizations in the country for one of the largest and the longest periods. And it is not only the country, but they are existing all across the globe. So let's see as to what is going to make such kind of structure over here. I'm not going ahead with that diagram. But let's look at the criterias that put up the evaluation of a strategy, and that is by Andrews. So let's have a look at what he says. Number one, he connects with, is the strategy identifiable and has it been made clear either in words or in practice? Many a times it remains only in the mind. No, it does not has to be in the mind. It has either to be clearly explicit in words or one should be practicing it. Like Professor Krishna Kumar has been practicing it, and every time we see that there is a practice which comes up. His intent of let me just try to put and relate it with him as an institution. One of the biggest connections that I found of relating the whole of strategic management was during COVID, where he created the oxygen plant. And when he created this oxygen plant, around 30 lakhs of rupees was spent by him only. The intent was to save the humankind. Today, 30,000 rupees gets spent on a park. The intent is to identify and tell people as to what you are actually doing and what you can do. So maybe it's once again that specific issue of making the strategy identifiable through practice also. So is the strategy in some way unique? It does not have to be the same as it is there with other organizations. That is the second method of evaluation. The third one is, does the strategy fully exploit domestic and international environmental opportunities? Do not only restrict yourself to your country itself, because if you are doing that, then there might be some international forum which is going to come, organization that is going to come, and we may be out. Is the strategy consistent with corporate competence and resources, both present and projected? So all what we have, do we have the competence, and are we moving according to the competence? There is one example that Professor Kumar was discussing just day before yesterday, and let me put it over here. And what he said was, Nepal wants some kind of food. So how are we going to give them food? We need to understand whether we are going to produce food at our own place and supply to them. That will depend upon the competence. So if we have enough land, if we have enough commodities related to what we want to supply to them, then obviously we produce them at our own place and supply them. But if it is a long-term strategy, can we do that? Yes, if we can do that, we go ahead with that. Else, if we want to go ahead and help them in producing, then why not help them produce the same thing? So it depends upon what is the corporate competence and the level of resources an individual has. And with that, let me connect with what we've been talking about between Japan and America, where Japan tries to understand that it has some of those resources in terms of technology. It has some of those resources in terms of trying to bring in quality, but it does not have enough resources in terms of production. So how and what to produce, it is able to come up. The fifth one is, are the major provisions of strategy and the program of major policies of which it is comprised internally consistent? So all what we are doing, can we do it? It's not like we try to say we can get the stars, we can get the moon, we can reach the moon. Until and unless we have enough of it, we should not say that. We should be realistic. Is the chosen level of risk feasible in economic and personal terms? Can we take a specific risk? It should not be there that we go ahead with a long and a big economic risk and then we fail. we will not be able to raise ourselves again. Is the strategy appropriate to the personal values and aspirations of the key turners, that is the managers? So whatever this institution that is there in the case had, so is the strategy appropriate to the personal values and aspirations of individuals? Are the people within the organizations, they are also interested in going ahead with it? That is the chiefs who are there. And this actually is very important in case of India. Most of the issues, they are restricted simply because the CEOs, the central persons, they are going ahead with some kind of their own personal interests, or their strategic understanding is not as attuned to the requirements of the place. The next one is the strategy appropriate to the desired level of contribution to society? So that is important. We have to look at the contribution of the society, and that is how the strategy should be evaluated. Does the strategy constitute a clear stimulus to organizational efforts and commitment? And the last one is, are there early indications of responsiveness of market segments to the strategy? So this is how we can go ahead with evaluation of the strategy. Although I know that there are many of us even over here in this specific expression who can extend this list with a couple of more issues. The times have changed. There are different issues. People are looking at short-term objectives, especially when we are talking about issues like technology. So what has happened in case of technology is it is changing and turning things. So let me get down to the second part of it. How can we relate the opportunities to resources? So we look at these 6 specific areas. We need to look at the technology. We also need to look at the ecology. We need to look at the economics. So if we are bringing in technology, how much it is actually going to spend. And we need, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You are saying how to stop it.
Sir,
Right.
what I'm trying to put over here is how we can restrict this strategic loss. I am saying how to restrict it. I have already explained what is the strategic loss. Now I am saying how to go ahead with evaluating it, and what are the factors within evaluation which we should consider. So for considering how we can go ahead with evaluation, so we relate it to opportunities to resources, and these resources are in terms of technology, how much does an organization has, the ecology, the economics, the industry, the society, and obviously the politics. So that brings in the nature of a company's environment. We also should be looking at how we can track the changing environment, but I think that may once again not relate straight to this. We are done up with the specific issue of how we can and how we could have reduced that specific strategic loss. Sir, shall I stop over here? Is it fine? Okay, I would like all of you or any one of you to maybe say add on to any of the issues that we have connected. It will be fine. So we can connect for 2 to 3 minutes, and then Professor Sudhakar, we can move to you. Okay. Sir, would you like to say something? Let me request Professor Kumar to, that is the writer of the case. As we know, we bring in the writers into the case discussion. So let me bring in the writer.
This particular case is not a case. It's a first-hand experience of having lost without realizing. So post-retirement, I was just lying on bed and crying. And then it occurred to me to look at, we made corporate planning, which we call prospective plan for the institute. And then 30 years later, I was saying, have we implemented? Yes, it's not that we did not implement in full. Part we did. But the advantage was that if you are clear about it, it takes just 4 months to increase one section. And if the requirement of the country was 50,000 admissions, and they restrict to 30, imagine 50,000 and 30. So adding one section in 4 months, it is possible at least add one section every year. If that we had done, then 30 years, the intake should have been 900. But we just didn't do it. Why? It did not occur to us. We were set up as a national institution to meet the growing requirement and emerging requirements of the country. We lost sight of that. Now, if you look at the perspective plan, we should have been training in one institution. 25% PhDs coming out every year in management. And in 20 years, we would have grown 500 PhDs, 100 in each functional area, so that 500 institutions' requirement could be met. If 500 institutions had 100 intake, we would have grown faculty for 50,000 students. We just don't do anything because we thought we are established for PGP education. And this role was entrusted to us in 1988 under new education policy. We are not to conduct, we are not only to groom working managers, but you have to be responsible for taking care of management education in the country for working managers. Do we even remember what role we were entrusted? So we always say, what is the grade of assistant professor, associate professor, and full professor? Why we are being offered lecturer grade now when I am so created for at least a reader level position. But if you yourself start teaching bachelor's level, so I am so created for minimum master's level. That is why reader's position was the minimum position in the institute. But if you start undergraduate program and say, give me for postgraduate program, I mean, people don't even realize what they're talking. So if we don't realize, if we are incoherent in our talk, that we want grade of PhD students, but we'll conduct course for bachelor's or undergraduate. So now we have 5 integrated program. Tomorrow we may add a secondary school also in that. And from nursery to PhD, is this the role you were? You could not increase section from 30 to 100. And instead started teaching higher secondary education. You lost sight of the very purpose for which you were created. So strategic loss, first thing is when our attention is diverted from the very purpose for which we were established. Imagine 500 teachers plus 500 trainers to take care of in-house training programs. Instead of grooming trainers, we are now conducting programs for interning professional officers in the institutions. Why? Because they can pay and our corpus is good. Our revenues are more, our profits are more, our total budget is this. we have 100 crores corpus. Look at any of the objective ways mentioned, what should be your corpus. We are pursuing every objective which is not listed in the object clause. And we are not focusing our attention on the objects for which we were established. Looks painful. I also feel the pain because I was also part of that. But is it possible to achieve it? We believe it is not possible to achieve it, so we don't do it. So in behavioral science, when people get motivated to do, if they find target is far too high and I shall not be able to achieve that, they don't even do what they could have achieved. They get deterred. ये तो हो गई नहीं, सो मत करो, शुरू ही मत करो. If the target is too light, then also it doesn't happen. So it's a moderate target and developing confidence, you can do it. And that is why the experiment of 1989 was, this was just 4 months job to increase one section, and you don't increase a single seat for 27 years. And call yourself the most prestigious model institution in the country. If achievement, if non-achievement of your objectives on purpose is hallmark of excellence, I think it is better not to be excellent. And this, I can tell you, is so painful a realization. We could have done. We have not done. We could have developed a program for a session for conferencing. We have not done it. We could have developed a software like Zoom. We have not done. Anything and everything, we become consumer straight away. And we bring, we import technology and software and everything. And we put it here in a big market where people are vying for with each other to buy a helicopter. I mean, imagine a motorcycle which you had 20 years ago, and the person who washes car, he believes that he should be riding in that car as his own car. But I'll do only washing. It's very strange. We have all joined together as a national policy for increasing expectations of people. हर आदमी को मकान, हर आदमी को गैस, हर आदमी को व्हीकल, सब कुछ हर आदमी को बगैर कुछ किए तो आदमी काम क्यों करे? And this is a national policy. We have declared for next 5 years, the Prime Minister says, for next 5 years, 80 crores will be getting free ration. This is a policy, Modi ki guarantee. यानी अगले 5 साल तक 80 crores भिखारी रहेंगे as a national policy. Why should people work? It never occurred. And that is what Mao Zedong realized in 1960. All the scholars, advisors used to say, agriculture is sound. And when 1960 famine took place in the late 50s, there was nothing to eat. And then Mao realized, I have been bluffed by all these scientists and advisors that everything is going fine. Nothing is going fine. The country is facing famine of highest order. I don't have food to feed these people. He said, that is why in 1962 war, he used to threaten India. कितने लोग मारोगे? तुम्हारी गोलियां खत्म हो जाएंगी, हमारे आदमी नहीं खत्म होंगे. They will come in line because anyway they have to die. The 62 war, which people don't talk, is 1960, 50s, late 50s. Mao Zedong realized he has been deceived by the advisors that everything is fine, and here are people going to die because of famine. Why not wage a war with India? Let the people be killed in war. They'll be called martyrs. And then he pushed all the professors, economists, scientists pushed on gunpoint to the fields, go and till the soil. Imagine. This has happened 50 years ago, 60 years ago. That is why you find China is what China today. It does everything on its own. It doesn't look at USA for broadband. It doesn't look at any other country for whatever he's supplying or flooding other markets. Mobile was not invented by China. But flooding is by China. Because you have to work. If you don't get bullet. No place for. And here we say we are industry leaders. I'm richest. Is this the objective which you are pursuing as an industrialist and getting awards for excellent leader? To be the biggest? So all airlines are falling one by one. And today, the tragic case, Naresh Goyal pleading with the court that please give me bail so that I'm having cancer. My wife is having cancer last stage. Please allow me to have with my wife. And the same Naresh Goyal did not mince words in malpractice when he was at top of the. Anil Ambani is another case. He is still surviving because of something. Anil Ambani has failed. Sahara, Subhatra has failed. Deccan failed. Lufthansa failed. All failed. We have saga of failed 30 airlines since 1992, 93 when the open sky policy was introduced. Indigo is continuing because Indigo is not Indian. They get fuel from Middle East to fly to India full time. The day Indigo becomes an Indian company, it will wind up overnight. None of us have any organization which can be honest. And I wish we are incompetent. I wish we were not gifted by Almighty the brain as any other person. We have everything. We just don't want to do. So strategic loss is enormous. You know, we could go in increasing intake from 800 to 8,000 in 15 years. And we could not grow from 180 to 270 in 30 years. We can do it. So if we are losing, pain is not loss. Pain is, we had much better strength than others, but still we lost. Because we are a country which wastes resources which in no way parallel in the world. Here is a plot of land, 1,500 square feet, if not more, lying for 20 years, unutilized. And so we are going to make a park which can be utilized. Because if there is a concept of park, there must be some utility of it. So what we are going to do is, we are just experimenting whether this park can start functioning. And believe me, the banner which are there, please don't pluck the flowers. Please don't touch and pluck the flowers. These flowers are not fit for stealing and offering to God. लोग पेड़ तोड़ के रात में पेड़ के साथ पौधा भी तोड़ लेते हैं भगवान की खिलाफ. उस पे कुत्ते का पेशाब करवा देंगे. उसको देख सकते हो, उसको तोड़ोगे भगवान पे चढ़ाओगे तो भगवान तुम्हारे संग आएगा. Third thing, you are under CCTV surveillance. आप वॉच करें जो पुल तोड़ने वाला है. And beware, you can be hit with gulal. If you are found plucking a flower, straight shot from gulal, and your hand which is trying to pluck the flower will be injured. And चोरी करके पूजा पर चढ़ाने वाले फूल इस तरफ है. So we are making a separate half the lawn, जिनको बेचारे बूढ़े हो गए हैं, उनको लत पड़ गई है चोरी करने की, चोरी के ही फूल चढ़ाएंगे, तो उनके लिए इधर चोरी करके पूजा पे फूल चढ़ाने वाले फूल इधर हैं। आओ, अच्छे अच्छे गुलाब ले लो, अच्छे अच्छे गुड़हल ले लो, अच्छे अच्छे बेला ले लो, एक एक ले लो, दो दो ले लो, फूल खराब किए तो गुलेल पड़ेगा। We are experimenting this. And 1 o'clock we are going to inaugurate this park, and I'll vanish from the scene. I'm leaving for Bangalore tomorrow. I'll not be here to see whether this concept works. If this concept works for 1 month, people have already come, and the people who are walking around, अरे it's good, अब इसमें थोड़ा घास लगा के योगा कराएंगे। अरे योगा का कुछ भी करो, 365 days, 1,500 square feet land lying idle in the prime land. So, strategic loss is loss of opportunities. We think strategic loss is only when the company is going down. We could have provided, Naresh Goyal, if you were careful, you could have provided low-cost air services to the whole of half the world. It was possible. You lost that opportunity. You got petty with making money, and in turn lost the opportunity of serving larger society. And no government stops us from conducting faculty development. No government. I have not seen any secretary, any babu, any minister saying don't conduct FDP. We don't conduct and say government is hurting our economy. So I stop here. It was painful. 25 years, 30 years later, I realized, what if we had done that? If we had implemented that instrument, we would have a management center for developing countries. Means 50 countries with us. We would have created Euro-India Management Center. Whole of Western Europe would have been with us. But no takers. Nobody will attend. You know, Dr. Vandana, if you don't mind, I can share your experience. Dr. Vandana has said, sorry, sir, I'll have to go early because I have already registered with a workshop. You have registered with a workshop after you knew that we are going to have class. If that workshop is more important, that you registered later and absenting here. So whatever we are discussing strategic loss today, suppose tomorrow I ask you, conduct a class for working managers on a strategic loss, will you be able to do it? Now, how do I move to the next stage after FDP to working managers taking SM education to people's doorsteps, in their home, in their respective tables, if I don't have faculty law to tell? And if 20 faculty members start talking 20 different things in the name of a strategic loss, the manager will lose all that clarity he had if he attends that session. That is why this series I had started, to identify what is common understanding. Do people understand the same way, or there are 20 different understandings? It is being recorded. And the part which are useful, I'll tell the faculty colleagues, ये बढ़िया गया इसी तरह बोलने का, ये बढ़िया गया इसी तरह बोलने का, यही समझाने का. Once I have 10-15 faculty members who can substitute for me without any apprehension, then we'll start conducting MDP, which is our main thing. 50,000 managers, how do you reach? Unless until you have 50 faculty members. It is this. So I can provide platform, but I cannot substitute for all of you. You know, Professor Shini, I'm quite weak now. More than 2 hours energy I don't have. And when I was going to Nimsar with Professor Ban, on return, I almost was going unconscious. So with this frail health, I'm not able to. And then if you have to work overnight without sleeping, it becomes very damaging. I may go any day. So if the dream is, I should be able to groom at least 30-40 people who can carry on SM education in the country. I'll not be there, but SM education will continue. That is why SMFI program, that's why SMF faculty program, all these things. Now, Professor Sudhakar, you can, there is a fabulous case that Professor Sudhakar is going to speak. Fabulous case, it will tell you, you can add one section every year, every institution. Go ahead.
Sir, you have to enable sharing, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
शेयरिंग
just one.
आपके पास से नहीं मिलेगी तो से होगी।
Yeah, namaste to all. Wonderful being here, and thanks to Dr. KK for giving me this opportunity. So the way I am looking at it is, our eventual objective is to reach practicing managers, and especially practicing managers who will not be able to go to a management institute, and to reach them. So that is how I have kind of planned my working on this case.
ये शेयर कैसे करते हैं किसी को पता है?
No, it says you have disabled sharing.
अरे शेयर किसे कैसे करते हैं ये बताओ?
फिर इनके इसके जाइए ऊपर राइट
हाँ।
ऊपर
Sir, as a host, you have to enable the sharing. You
do
click
it.
on the sharing, and there is an option that allow others to share.
Where is that? अच्छा, ये शेयर स्क्रीन है. Where is the option?
Sir, share screen पे नीचे आता है allow others to share.
जाइए सर हरे वाले पे आइए
ये शेयर स्क्रीन पर.
एक सेकंड सर ओके करिए सर आप सर फिर उस पे जाइए नहीं
ये क्या हो गया?
अरे, इन्होंने हमको बना दिया होगा एक्चुअली एक
मेरे पास
ओके
just
Yeah,
for
so what I was kind of trying to share is that I have tried to address this case, like if I were to talk to some practicing managers, rather than all of you who are very senior faculty in strategic management. So you must excuse me for the simplicity, I think, in which I'm going to be talking. So this case, if you have read the case, I hope so. I shared it yesterday. I hope you, some of you at least would have
just
read.
write once
Yeah.
so is it okay sir I पूरा
हाँ ठीक है. Okay.
Yes, sir. Are you able to see this thing, sir?
yes
Yeah. Okay. So this case is about the power of.
This is
Yes.
one of the most interesting and funniest case, and you can use it any of the classes of managers. People
Yes.
would love it.
So my understanding was that this case is trying to give to a practicing manager a different way of looking at strategic implementation. So when we talk about strategy formulation, that is one thing. But when we talk about strategic implementation, it's very much like any other professional. So, if you were to visit a doctor, apart from hearing whatever complaint you have, he needs to understand, he needs to probably evaluate certain things. He has to touch you, maybe he has to get some report from the laboratory, and only then, he will be able to come up with a diagnosis. Similarly, let us look at an architect. So an architect, even if they just change the city and they have to design a building in another city, it's very difficult because they need to understand many aspects about the environment, the physical environment, maybe the cultural environment of that city, and how the houses are used, built, and what are the different purposes for which the various components of the house are used. So what I'm trying to say is, in every profession, and we have something as theory, but for application or for implementation of strategy, we need to be considering the environment as we go along. So strategic implementation cannot be something that is set, in stone. And as we go along, as things happen around us in the environment, we will have to take things forward. So this is an interesting case. I don't know if any of you have got the chance, and I would request in my case that you please stop me or contribute as we go along. At the end of this case, there are a few questions. How much was the growth rate of IMP? Now, this institute initially had an idea that, or had a requirement that they need to grow at a certain pace. Eventually, there was also some factors in the environment that pushed them to grow at a faster rate than that. And they were able to achieve much more than what was initially planned, and what was planned, or what was the requirement due to the external environment, and what they took upon themselves. So, for example, in terms of student intake, this institute grew by 4.3 times. Okay. And one of the external aspects was about the increase in OBCs, because there was a legal, or rather, the government wanted that quota to be fixed for OBCs. Then there was a court ruling. And while the other institutes were struggling to increase 10 to 12% in seats, this institute was able to complete or take in additional OBC entire quota in year one itself. How were they able to achieve this? So the primary reasons why the increase in intake could happen is because there was an increase in the physical capacity of the classrooms, hostels, faculty accommodation. Especially, they had visiting faculty for the senior class, and so they were able to get that. Now, the another reason was that another resource required to increase, when we want to increase capacity, is about faculty. So their strategy was that they were willing to pay extra for in-house faculty, and the Board of Governors had approved that. And similarly, they had got guest faculty who would come in from out of town, stay in the guest house, and conduct the classes. So I think, the reason why this intake took place, or why the interior design itself got changed, is because this Dr. Patel, who was the director of the institute, he was very observant of the environment. What I mean by that is, he was looking at, for example, there was a classroom complex. What was the size of the classroom? How many students it could accommodate? What was his faculty strength? What were the resources in terms of external faculty, budgets, and also at the end of the case, we will be discussing a little more about it, but interchangeability of physical structure was another important, I think, way of thinking. More than anything, is a strategic thought that actually led to this. Of course, he was also a keen observer, and was always in touch with the government requirements, the court orders, the architects, and offer. And when actually happened was that when they sent out 190 acceptances, 170 accepted to join the college, whereas in earlier years the acceptance ratio was less. So this actually created for them a pressure that the number of seats available or the hostel accommodation available was reduced, because once the acceptance ratio goes up, you are going to have a greater number of students coming in, and the space available to fill in quotas and other things become a little more difficult. Okay. So anyway, so this is a story of an institute that grew 4 times in 3-4 years, right? So 4 times. So it's a very substantial increase without substantial increase in costs. Now, how did this actually take place? I have just explained to you. Primarily, the innovative thinking on the director, who was able to increase physical capacity in various aspects without actually making major investments, new investments. Now, the next question that comes up when you look at this case is that, and this comes to us in many organizations wherever we are working also, is growth just a matter of choice? Can we just decide to grow, and can growth happen? Or are there many other factors that both help as well as hinder growth, which are beyond just our desire for growth? Okay. So what happens in this case is, nowhere it is mentioned that, there was a specific plan that year 1, this should be the increase, year 2, this should be the increase in number of seats, and year 3, this is what should happen. So there is no mention of a growth plan in quantitative terms. There is no mention like that. However, what happened in the course of this case is that, as if you read the case, you will understand, during the entire process of the 2-3 years, different things happened in the environment. For example, government orders that you have to now take OBC quota, and you have to see that every year you start taking up at least a part of the OBC quota, so that at the end of 3 years or 5 years,
Professor Sudhakar, we can't hear you. Are you?
he looked at this as a opportunity, whether it was the court ruling or whether it was the direction from the government, whatever it was. So this guy director, he saw it as a opportunity. So I think many times what happens is, when we are implementing strategy and looking at internal and external environments, it is how we perceive the issues which is very important. So we can look at something as a problem even if it is an opportunity, or we can look at it as an opportunity even if it is appearing as a problem. I mean, at the first glance, it appears like a problem, but actually it is an opportunity. However, one thing is very clear, that, nowhere during this period, the director lost sight of the organizational goal. So keeping that goal in mind, what he was doing was, he was looking at the opportunities the environment offered and made the most of it, so that the organization was able to reach its stated goal, even if they didn't have like a very obvious kind of plan. As a year 1, I'm going to increase the intake by 20%, year 2, I will increase by 40%. They didn't have any such plan, but they grew 4 times only because I think the way the director saw the opportunities in the environment, and he also got, of course, the approval of his own management, that is the governing board and others. So the next thing that comes up in this, that is about whether it was a very conscious strategy. I just mentioned to you that growth was not exactly part of some specific plan. However, the goal orientation was conscious. What I'm trying to say here is that every level of the organization, everybody participated, everybody was interested in the organization moving towards its goal. In 2002-3, for example, I'm talking now about the numbers of students, the government pushed for the OBC quota. Then in 4 and 5, the director himself, he became creative with the use of the interior design of the classrooms, or the architect to redesign the classrooms. Then again, in 8 and 9, they were able to that means they were able to fill the seats for the entire reservation, for the entire quota. It was almost 89 seats or something like that. They were able to fill. So even if it is not a conscious strategy, as we go along, I don't know whether I can say it is not a conscious strategy. That may not be right. There is a conscious strategy, but it keeps kind of changing in terms of when we are implementing. So if there are opportunities when we are implementing a strategy, obviously we should take advantage of that, because nothing is strategic, is static. We are working in an environment. There is an external environment, there is an internal environment. We are working in this environment. So obviously, which is changing, obviously means that even our strategy cannot be static. So it is something that has to evolve in conjunction with the environment. So the next question is, how did this strategy of increasing the number of seats benefit? So because I was mentioning some time ago that the other directors or the other institutes, they thought it more of a problem, and they felt that, they were not really interested in, I won't say not interested, but they had no instruction to increase the number of students to such a large extent in such a short time. Whereas this institute, because of this, you can say foresight, or you can say some keenly looking at the opportunities and then using whatever resources they had. So basically what they did is they asked the architect to redesign the classrooms. For those that were meant for 35 students got increased to 50 or 60 students. Those that were originally planned for 60, they went on to be classrooms for 80 or 90 students. So purely by making a request to the architect. Similarly, what they did in the case of the hostels. So in case of the hostels, the original plan was to have single bedroom hostels. Just by changing that to double bedroom hostels, and also of course improving the interiors and things like that, they not only got the hostels to accommodate double the number of people at the same, more or less the same cost, but also they were able to use these hostels for other things, because PGP Institute, the course runs only for 9 months. Then they had a few months in the year where they could conduct FDPs, and they could conduct different programs for MDP. And even the MDP and FDP participants were happy to stay in this kind of places because the quality of the interiors of those, whether it was the faculty quarters or the guest houses or the hostels even. So anyway, what happened because of this substantial increase was that there was a substantial increase in revenue, and even though the intent might not have been corpus, there was a huge growth in the corpus. Then the government also felt that this is a institution that is taking some initiative, not waiting for orders. They are taking some initiative, and so they started to release funds. They granted more land for this institute, and they supported this institute based on the performance. So based on the economic as well as the numbers, admission numbers of this institute. So this is the thing. So this case also talks, to go back. So I was just mentioning to you about how much of this benefit is due to interior design. I would say most of the benefit is due to interior design. But then, as management students, we can also attach a monetary value. So, I can say that this number of student intake increased by 4.3 times or 5 times, something like that. The income increased almost by 5 crores per year. This is very substantial. Then there is a lot of savings. But if you sit down, how do you come to this 5 crore number? Right? You can actually make a calculation very simply by additional revenue into the number of additional students, which was not planned earlier. Then you had savings in hospitality expenses. You had value of the accommodation that you provided free for MDPs and FDPs. So if you put all of this together, so you're getting something like 5 crores without increasing any capital expense. So there is no additional capital expenditure on the building, except that there was some money that was available for providing some temporary classrooms, and that money was used for interior design, okay, or making all the facilities look good. And because of that, actually, the guest faculty also started staying in this institute. So what we can learn from this case basically is, if you're keenly observing and willing to make changes along the way to reach the organization's goal, and I think it's also a good example of having initiative, because many times what happens is that, especially in education industry, I think even if we are aware of the situation in the environment, we are not willing to take action because we are either worried that somebody might, find fault with this, or why should I do it? Just now, I think Professor was mentioning about the situation in the park and things like that. Basically, nobody wants to bell the cat because you want to play safe and don't want to kind of take the risk. So, I don't know whether I'm kind of making sense at all, but anyway. So, one thing I want to get a response from all of you is, see, one thing is this director was able to increase the classroom strength and hostel strength and all that. But what do you think? I mean, is that enough for an institution to grow? I'm sure all of us are teachers. We have been connected with many institutions. So just having a good, great physical infrastructure, or having this faculty accommodation and student accommodation, that itself is not enough, So what do you think, this Dr. Patel, who managed this entire transition, from 120 to nearly 600 students, what else he might have been thinking about, and what else you think he might have organized? Anybody can kind of give me some help by responding? That would be great. Sir, I'm not able to read. I have to.
Okay.
Park. Oh, sir.
What is it? You better read it once.
No, पार्क खुलने का समय सुबह 7 से 9 बजे तक और शाम में 4 से 9 बजे तक.
जी सर.
Yeah, now in English.
Yeah, much more legible for Professor Srinivasan.
Anyway, I'll come back to Dr. Srinivasan because I have some complaint, against Dr. Srinivasan.
What is it?
He was, as he came in, he wished all the ladies, and he just didn't even bother to acknowledge the male faculty who are on this call. I was observing.
Sincere
I was
apologies. But still I'm there, sir. Little apologies. Sir. No arguments. I'm accepting my mistake.
Yeah.
No, today being Mother's Day, like we deserve a special mention.
Very good, ma'am. Good, madam. Good point you brought.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
happy
So
Mother's Day.
we wish you a very happy Mother's Day. And
So, why don't you
Thank you, sir.
your face?
Hello.
Happy Mother's Day
Yes,
to
sir.
all, yeah.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar. Why don't you show your face?
Sir, I'm in the department. I just got out of the invigilation room. We have an
Okay,
exam
okay,
scheduled
okay.
today.
Okay.
So I just came out a little bit, so I thought I could,
Acha.
participate.
So nice, so nice. Yeah,
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So your park initiative is such an inspiration. I was just thinking, how could I, change the plots lying unused and rather abused around my place, and then probably we will.
Doctor, it's not
Yes,
my
sir.
land. It's a common.
No. Even there are plots around my house, which is not my land, but somebody else's land, but they're not using it. But people are using it for throwing trash, and then
Yes.
it's lying
Yes.
unused. So
So
that's something that we can also do about it.
after
Yes,
months,
sir.
Putting a trash is
After a
okay,
month,
but
I'll
if it's
show you
using for
what
that, will
really
become
happened to it.
encroachment.
after a month, I'll show you this status, what really happened. Believe me-
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. You
believe
keep
me,
inspiring and
therefore
amazing
yesterday I was
us.
trying to, therefore yesterday night, I was trying to find out, can I get bench for the park? And I didn't have any idea what is the price and how to pay. I found
Mhm.
on internet that I just cement benches in Lucknow city. And next day morning, I got one phone number. I contacted
Mhm.
and I told him, what is the price? Your price of ranges from 3,000, 2,900 to 8,000. So I said, there is a bench which I find 2,300.
There is a paiter.
And then he said, yes, I have. How much time it will take to deliver? He said, sir, 2-3 days. I said, 2 days or 3 days? He said, 2 days. I said, I want today. He said, how
Okay.
can I supply today? Can you get standard ones? I said, show me the color. And he showed the color. I said, deliver. Please send your QR code so that I can pay. He sent his QR code, I paid. He included all the expenses and total was 8,000. I had money in my bank, 8,000, I paid. And yesterday morning, these people came
विवेकानंद
at 12 o'clock and started putting. And at 4 o'clock, the person who came, he said, sir, for bolt and nuts for 2 benches I have got. For third, I forgot to bring. I said, then take back the other 2. I said, I either need 3 or none. So please, you have loaded, now you reload and take it back. He said, sir, कल कर देंगे नहीं कल तो टाइम ही नहीं हमारे पास. So he said, okay, in 10 minutes I am coming again. He did not come. 2 hours later, 6 o'clock, I contacted the owner. Please, thank you very much for supplying the bench, but at night I am dismantling that. Tomorrow morning you can come and pick up and throw it. They said, what? I said, yes, I'm going to throw it and I'm not going to ask you for a refund. I'm just throwing it. It's my property. And I'll show I got it from such and such person. So let me see who places order to you next time. He said, then yesterday, again at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock night, he came and fixed it. Likewise with flowers, it was a question. And then the morning, the person who was playing music, he is a member of the society. He said, I'll get the gate made. So I said, good. And I asked the flower pot fellow, how much time it will take? He said, and in one day, he supplied 15 pots or 10 pots, and a previous day, 5 pots with 3 flowers. See, for example, 3 colors of roses in 1 pot, 3 colors of graha in 1 pot, bela and mogra in 1 pot, and bougainvillea 3 colors in 1 pot, and 3 Kashmiri gulab in 1 pot, like that 3 sets. And he made and supplied yesterday. But today morning, when people in my society were traveling, neighbors came and said, what is this? I find a lot of flowers. I said, it's for you. See it and be happy. So now they got excited. Okay, if this happens, then we are going to make it a yoga center. No, I am not creating these opportunities. I just thought, and then I added a tab. That is, people who are going inside to bring water for washing cars, they don't need to enter the park. Outside there is a tap. You use that for the purpose of washing the cars. And inside the park, the tap is there. That is for watering the flowers. Now, the society people have come forward and said, we'll take care of it. 5 people. And they're waiting for inauguration at 1 o'clock. You know? Now, it doesn't take time. When I'm talking to you, I'm making this. Likewise, when it continues, what I'm going to do, you know. Sushma. Yeah.
With that, in the meantime, let me welcome Shalini R. Tiwari ji, and let me also wish you a happy Mother's Day.
Now, people don't
Thank
believe.
you. Thank you for the welcome and thank you for wishing me. I was here only. In between, I had to go and make breakfast. I'm in performing mother duties. So
Here's one more mother, Sushma. Sushma, जरा इधर आ जाओ, अपनी भी शक्ल दिखा दो, Sushma. आ जाओ, Sushma.
All right.
Now, I have to make idlis for you. People don't believe I can make idlis.
good morning, ma'am. Good morning.
Happy Mother's Day. Yeah.
Happy Mother's Day, ma'am.
इडली में बनाने में कुछ नहीं, वो तो बना बनाया आ जाता है पाउडर, उसको बैटर में डाला और बना करके साथे में रख दिया, 10 मिनट में इडली आ गई. जिसको ग्रीन चिली इडली खानी हो वो मेरे घर आ जाए. बहुत अच्छा है. आलू के पराठे भी तैयार हो गए हैं, पनीर के पराठे भी तैयार हो गए हैं, पाव भाजी भी है आज, और पराठा और कबाब भी है, और पुलाव भी. तो जो लखनऊ में आएंगे उनको ये मिलेगा.
Sir, I'm बहुत दूर
Oh,
बैठे
that is only for Dr. Majai. That's
हैं. Yeah.
Sudhakar, you did not come. There is a
नहीं,
faculty guest room for you. Where I
नहीं, sir.
see what are the facilities available.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
facilities include 24/7 chauffeur-driven car. Free.
Sir, I know about all the details because I spoke to Krishna Mohan, one of the residents who came there last week and spent the weekend there.
Ah.
And he told me that, there is nobody who can come anywhere near Dr. Krishna Kumar's and his Mrs. Hospitality. And they really enjoyed.
We were projecting on the screen some text. So a professor said, "Can I see this text lying on the bed? Because I'm having the habit of seeing like this. So
Right.
can you project this text on the ceiling?"
Ah,
And we were able to project the text on the ceiling.
right.
अगर पढ़ने तैयार हो तो मैं सीलिंग क्या कहीं भी जहाँ का वहीं प्रोजेक्ट कर दूंगा.
He told me, sir, you have some 5 or 3 internet connections and all
Yes.
those details he gave me. Unbelievable.
Dr. Sabui, Prabhakar, the day I find 15, 20 members of faculty can take one session each.
Hmm.
And they are in common talking terms. That is, they say strategic loss, all of them will speak that only. Then I'll launch an MDP, and whosoever is available, he will speak,
Yeah,
and others will attend and add if necessary. Because unless until we gear up for that, Dr. Sabuhi, my colleagues who have been with us for the last 20 years, it is time now to take a leap forward
yes.
for thinking of handling how to reach 50,000 working managers, introducing the concept of a strategic management. So if you see the case, when people were seeing OBC quota as a threat,
Yes.
this was a great opportunity because we were ready to expand and only faculty members were saying don't expand. And they were in faculty council having the command. Without their approval, I cannot increase. But the moment Act of Parliament was cleared by Supreme Court, nobody could say no. So if you had to do it anyway, rest of the infrastructure is ready, then we increase in 1 year. And government got happy. And they gave upfront 85% of the grant. We were to get 22 crores. 85% of that was close to 20 crores. Others increased 6%. So 32 crores, 6% is 2 crores. We got 20 crores in first year. They got 2 crores in first year. And in 20 crores in 1 year interest, I got 2 crores.
Right.
And I have not increased any infrastructure. So all this became surplus. You transfer to corpus fund, the government gives another matching grant.
Mhm.
So it's such an interesting economics. I find if people have wrong idea about its implementation, 6 different kinds of resources are required. Faculty is one of them, infrastructure is one of them. So if you are ready with infrastructure and faculty, and only faculty approval is required, then Supreme Court comes. The moment Supreme Court says you have to increase, faculty members approval is over. So you straight away say yes. So like that, if you are ready with infrastructure, with 4 resources, 5 resources, the moment environment gives a signal, go ahead. You just lap up the opportunity. Others will have to develop those 5 resources. So it is very interesting.
Yeah.
The strategic management, I find, is an extremely dynamic process. You look for the opportunity. The moment you said, okay, I am increasing, and you got 20 crores upfront along with that land for water, then you are ready for expansion of next phase. And then if you go for online, no physical infrastructure required for residential buildings, you reduce the price for working managers to 1/5, and working managers come to you. So it's a very interesting dynamics of a strategic management I found. You keep thinking of broader goals. Your purpose is to meet the requirement of working managers. 50,000, I can't do it. I'll need faculty. So institutions will not permit. So if we have volunteer group of 50 faculty members who say, I'll come and lecture, I have to provide infrastructure, which is Zoom, which USA has provided. I have to just buy and say, please come. And working managers, I have to just think of how to inform them, please attend on such and such day. And that way we can meet the requirement of 50,000, what is not in the dream of IIMs today. Because we are only thinking of management education as a paid education residential program
Yes.
with a certificate. We won't give certificate. Attend, make use of it, and benefit your organization. That is the certificate.
Right.
It's very interesting.
Right.
So
Sir, you're thinking very big and very good. So it should happen.
the moment my faculty member believe they are going to serve 50,000 working managers in enriching examination, all the faculty members who are part of this group, they'll come forward, learn, and start. In the process, you don't know when you're teaching, you're learning yourself.
Correct, correct.
Working manager asks a question and you don't have answer. Somebody else has answered and you have learned.
Yes.
It is this group that I'm trying to develop, where when one person is presenting, others are learning. And together, if they have more or less common learning, then we go to managers together. And then see, 50,000 is not a big number. 50,000 means 1,000 per month. And
Correct.
1,000 per month means 20 batches. And 20 batches can be run in parallel. So
True, true.
let's have big dreams by sparing 1 hour, 2 hours in a week for the country to groom working managers is a very noble work which all of us would like to.
Definitely, definitely.
क्या एक बजे
हाँ
So,
सर कोई नहीं
हाँ, sir, more or less, sir.
1:50 तो भी टाइम है तो और क्या बड़ी मजेदार बात है प्रोफेसर प्रभाकर एंड सरूही after 10 years of FDP, we found the biggest confusion is between mission and vision.
Right, right, right.
That we discussed last Sunday.
Right.
And then you'll find even bigger surprise will come when we discuss strength and weakness.
Right.
What is our strength? What is our weakness? Our weakness was we did not have land.
Yeah.
So when OBC quota came, we said we can increase the intake if you sanction land.
Right.
The reluctance. Land is a state subject, we can't give. I said, okay, then we will not be able to increase OBC quota. He said, why you are insisting on that? Why you are so particular about land? I said, I am not asking land for water. I am asking
Right.
land for building. I am asking land for water.
Right.
If there is no water, how do I do? I have to make pond.
Hmm.
So they approved 25 acres of land.
Wow.
Given to me, I would have made 10 acres, multi-story, 6-story building, 10-story building, and 15 acres I would have used for making pond. So
Right.
it's very interesting. When we are afraid of a stakeholders as government, they
Yes.
are the people who are the only people who can give you enormous resources.
Correct.
Nobody else.
Yeah.
And when government is happy in sanctioning you, the board members are very happy.
Yes.
And when
So
we
in
are,
this case, one thing happened is because of the initial performance,
yes,
also the government is happy to extend all the support because it is like, you have to pass the exam, then you will get the, the support from everybody.
yes,
So this has happened here because they
all the
proved-
stakeholders,
Yes.
they start supporting the moment you do something which is
Yes.
meeting their expectations.
Correct.
Because if you say OBC quota be increased, government says, okay, well done.
Yeah, yeah.
OBC people, the students say, well done. The students say, my placement is not suffered, and size of the increased intake, well done. Believe me, OBC quota, the candidates, especially scheduled tribe candidates,
Yeah.
They are coming all the way from northeast to
Right,
collect.
right.
And the
Correct.
placement is no inferior than, every placement is no inferior than general candidates.
Correct, correct.
So my experience with non-Calicut was, except in 1977, all the years we had full quota of SC/ST, and
Right,
we
right.
still did not lose our position of 5th or 6th in overall placement.
Placement, yeah, yeah.
So what is wrong? The country is
Correct.
benefited. The
Yeah, yeah,
students are benefited. Faculty, not a single faculty lost promotion opportunity. And I did not plead with the selectors. They were proving that they are worthy of it. And selectors were happy because faculty member is slogging. Morning is taking PGP class. Afternoon is taking MDP class.
Right, right.
Evening is taking ideal class. Sunday is taking FDP class. Then he is doing research. Then he is also admission chairman. And they are admission chairman where the faculty colleagues are helping them. So
Right,
if he is in class, somebody else helps him as admission chairman. I found there is a lot of merit in cooperation. And by cooperation, we fill each other's gaps.
correct.
And we are able to move fast. By competition, we start bothering for my share.
Yeah, yeah.
If you see the book, there is a separate chapter on cooperative strategy.
Right, right.
And I say, don't go by Porter. Teach cooperative strategy. India needs cooperative strategy rather than competitive strategy. That is
Right,
for
right.
big
Yeah, yeah.
enterprise.
Very true.
So,
So what I was planning to do, sir, was going to actually ask everybody's opinion about this case and what other resources are required.
yes,
Then I was going to move into just the theoretical aspect.
yes,
So, talking to them, to the students about what are the components of business environment, internal, external, micro, macro, then talk a little bit about SWOT analysis. So that was what I was planning to do at the end. And then I wanted, maybe you also can probably tell me now, one of the expressions used in this case is managerial stick. So I had put one extra slide. After thank you slide, I put one extra slide. So just to discuss, because it is connected with this carrot and stick approach.
very.
So this is what I was
interesting.
planning, sir. That's all.
When Professor Sudhakar,
Sir.
when this matter went to Supreme Court, while my colleagues in 5 institutions were waiting for a favorable decision from Supreme Court to stay OBC quota, when they were praying for that, I was
Right.
praying Supreme Court, don't stay that so that I can increase the intake.
Right.
Just opposite.
Correct, correct.
So what is said for some
Yes.
is opportunity for others.
Opportunity for others. Yes, exactly. It
And what,
depends on how the leader is looking at it.
yes, yes. Basic thing is, how do you look at it?
Yeah.
Now, the room that you have faculty, a guest room, I wish more and more faculty may come and see and lecture from that
Right.
to see how, like a lawn, how a room where I was not entering for months together.
Yeah.
Is the room where everybody will like to be.
And definitely I will come, sir.
Yes.
Now it is really very warm. Even in Bangalore, you will discover tomorrow. It is very warm. Of course, last 2-3 days it is better.
Hey,
But
we'll give you all the amenities of Nainital. All amenities.
right. So thank you, sir. That is all from my side. And
Yes, sir.
maybe you have to go for your inaugural. I don't want to keep you from that.
Just 1 minute, just 1 minute. जरा मेरा ये बैनर लग जाए, अरे जब बैनर लग जाए, तब तक आप लोग चाय पीना।
हाँ, sir.
ये इडली जरा एक घाट चला दूं, इडली चला दूं,
Thank you, sir. Chanaki.
2 मिनट दीजिए बस। अरे ये सोनू यहाँ पे ये कौन बैठा? कहाँ लगना है? वो ये वाला है? यहाँ रखा हुआ दिया ये दो।
Wonderful session, Professor Sudhakar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any feedback from anybody will be most welcome. So I will be happy if you can tell me something.
How are you doing, Professor Tripathi?
Everything is fine. Wonderful session. Professor
Thank
Prakash.
you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank-
you.
So, having some time in the evening, can we connect?
Yes, yes. Evening we will connect.
इधर नीचे नहीं लंबा एक है देख लो जिसका चले हमने ये देख के बताइए कहाँ
सर तुमसे कहीं एक महीने में 10 पे दे कैन कनेक्ट after 20 minutes. हाँ सर I think we can break for 20 minutes and then we can connect because the inauguration will be there at 1. Let's
Okay, that is going to be streamed on this, is it?
Yeah, actually what is there is he's even gone ahead with a camera over here for the whole of
Oh,
the park, so you can have a look at the inaugural ceremony also.
Wow,
But
wow,
it's
wow.
going to take around 20 minutes at least to connect because the time is 1.
Right. So can we connect to the same link or how?
Yeah, you can leave and then return. So why do you
I
want
know.
to connect?
Okay. No, I'm saying the same link, is it?
Yeah, the same link.
Okay. Okay.
Just
Thank you,
another
sir. We'll
20
come back
minutes.
in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Thank
20
you.
minutes is fine.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
20 minutes. Okay.
So, hi, Dr. Prakash.
Yeah.
Ajay, yeah,
uh.
just my invigilation duty is till 1 o'clock. So, like
Yeah.
after that, say just after, see after the inauguration, is there another session or we are done with the session?
There's no other session. This is all what is there. So
हम्म,
no session, but just be there in the inauguration. We have few, so just connect.
ठीक
आपका
ठीक ठीक है
आपका किस तारीख का है?
मेरा तो लास्ट डे है आई थिंक
अच्छा
June first week.
अच्छा अच्छा
I knew that I would be stuck in all of these invigilation duties because exams were scheduled
नहीं
this,
नहीं ठीक
in
है,
the
but
month
you've
of May.
been attending, so no issues. You've been there.
हाँ नहीं I thankfully I was able to attend today. मैं तो कान में ईयरफोन लगा के मैं भी थोड़ा बाहर निकल के बात कर ले रही हूँ.
I
So,
hope it was meaningful. My delivery was at least meaningful.
yeah, it was great. It was great. I was just thinking how do I prepare? I haven't touched anything as yet.
I
Lekin
know
yeah,
you
like
prepare well,
attend.
so there are no issues.
No. Actually, I don't teach strategic management in the department. There are other senior faculty members who teach still. So I'm not really in touch with the course. But yes, I teach strategy in other forms. And
Now
so,
you are a professor.
हाँ प्रोफेसर तो बहुत पहले से हो गए थे.
अच्छा, so maybe the next doctoral work I'll just put in your name.
हाँ मैं वो तो आप डाल सकते हैं. मैं भी डालूंगी आपका. आप तो है ही प्रोफेसर.
No. हमारे यहाँ official university designated associate professor, but I was a professor at KCA University Nairobi. So वो अलग है. It depends upon how your institution takes. If it is an associate professor, you go ahead. I think that will be better. I don't want to put anyone into any of those troubled waters at any point in time.
चलिए देखते हैं.
हाँ नहीं कोई वो नहीं.
त्रिपाठी जी तो है ना प्रोफेसर? त्रिपाठी जी
वो तो त्रिपाठी जी तो आत्मीय यूनिवर्सिटी के वाइस चांसलर है. अब तो उनकी प्रोफेसरशिप में कहाँ इशू है.
हाँ वो हाँ नहीं वो तो है
आत्मीय यूनिवर्सिटी. हाँ
नहीं बहुत दिनों से मैं I haven't spoken to SMF colleagues for long. Like
वो
I'm only
छोटी सी कॉन्फ्रेंस रखिए जिसके अंदर उधर रखा जाए. नहीं हो तो AMU में ही आया और वहीं मिला जाए.
हाँ बिल्कुल.
हाँ
एक्चुअली मेरा IIT वाला कनेक्शन वो इतना हावी रहता है ना. अभी हमारा ग्लो गिफ्ट का कुछ होता रहता है. एक अभी IIM बोधगया में हुआ था, फिर अभी एक फ्रांस में होने वाला है. तो उसमें मैं थोड़ा सा that's my obligation because I'm a part of it.
तो हम लोग लाइन में हैं भाई. जब आपको लगे कि हम लोग बुलाना हो तब बुलाइएगा. हम लोग फ्रांस तो नहीं आएंगे.
नहीं ऑनलाइन भी कर सकते हैं. मतलब I can share. I'm sorry I forgot to share the brochure for the conference. So मैं organizing में नहीं हूँ, but I'm a part of that Glow Gift society which is organizing all this.
क्या है society?
It's a Global Institute of Flexible Systems Management, which is the brainchild of IIT Delhi professor who happens to be my supervisor, my research guru, Professor Sushil का ही है basically brainchild, but IIT Delhi के सारे professors हैं उसमें ज़्यादातर. Or like it's been more than 20 years that this has been in operation. It's a global body. It publishes. It has several branches. and it has two major publications. In fact, three publications. One publication is rated A category journal. Recently, Springer Journal में वो included है. दूसरा भी अभी it's about to be included in the Springer.
भेजिएगा डिटेल भेजिएगा तो फिर पब्लिकेशन के लिए भेजा जाए उसमें.
हाँ, और भी, और फिर आप कॉन्फ्रेंस भी जो होती है ना, उसमें जो बुक फॉर्म में जो पब्लिकेशंस होते हैं, वो प्रोसीडिंग्स दे आर ऑल स्प्रिंगर से पब्लिश होता है, और दे आर ऑल स्कोपस इंडेक्स. तो
बढ़िया है, एक्सीलेंट.
तो ये सारी चीजें अपॉर्चुनिटी होती हैं. फिर हम लोग इन्वॉल्व रहते हैं एज रिव्यूअर्स, एज एडिटर्स, तो बहुत सारा काम होता है. ऊपर से अभी मैं क्या बताऊं, अभी 25 तारीख तक मुझे 3 थीसिस सबमिशन मेरे लाइंड अप है.
अच्छा.
तो मैं उसमें फंसी हुई हूँ बहुत पूरी तरह. तो थैंकफुली आई एम ट्राइंग टू वाइंड अप बिफोर माय सेशन हियर ऑन दिस फोरम. तो चलिए, मैं फिर लाइक आई हैव टू गेट बैक टू द इन्विजिलेशन.
ओके, कनेक्ट
थोड़ा सा. हाँ, चलिए. ओके ओके, थैंक यू, बाय.
एक बजे जो है वो अभी से लोग आ जाएंगे. ऑफ तो किया नहीं है, तब तक हो जाएगा. हमें जाना होगा. 4-5 लोग हैं हम लोग. चलेगी.
ठीक से बता दिया। 1 बजे 2 मिनट के बाहर आ जाइएगा तो उसको खिसक आ जाएगा।
अपना जो है करके अभी से शुरू करेंगे। सर लेक्चर कनेक्शन ठीक था हमारा, लेकिन आप उसका सुन रहे हो। मुझे पेश किया कि अगर आप नहीं करेंगे तो लॉस इन्वोट करके ऐसा लॉस होता पानी और कुछ कर सकते हैं वो नहीं किया। आज कंट्री में किसी नए मरीज को जरूरत होती, अब वो होती भी तो उसको चलाते हैं, लेकिन फिर फैकल्टी हमारे ऐसे सोच करते हमारा तो क्वालिटी अपने आप ही इम्प्रूव हो जाए। और अलोन को भी 120 के बजाय 280 220 करते होते सारी इकोनॉमिक चेंज हो जाती, लेकिन हमारा सारा टेंशन दिया उसको डिमोलिश करना। नहीं सर यहीं पे ये है ना इसकी बात, तरह से करेंगे के अंदर वो मूव की मुंडी घूमती है अंदर, रोटेटर लगा। अब वो कमरे रखे हुए कुछ नहीं डालते बिल्कुल भी। घर से कमरे रखे हुए हाथ से लेकर निकल रहे हैं। मान लिया आया साइकिल अंदर खड़ा करके चला गया। हाँ यह क्या वो बता उसको अपनी साइकिल ज्यादा से जिस काम के लिए इससे कोई नहीं। एक बार मैक्सिमम तो नहीं बोला हुआ है तो हाथ से करना पड़ेगा। हाथ में कैमरा ही घुमाना पड़ेगा। ठीक है सामान नहीं हटा फिर सफाना पड़ेगा। हाँ हो गया लेकिन अब तार आने लगा, पहले नहीं सर ठीक है। हाँ, ठीक है। करंट मारा ठीक लगा भी है लाइन। किताब हमको मिल गई थी
concept of proper typically offer. Arthur? Sir, top copy में भी कर। ये जो हमने आपको किताब है नहीं जो अंग्रेजी में। अच्छा उसके बाद तो हिंदी में करना है वो जो पर्टिकुलर पैरा मैंने जो जोड़ा था ना हाँ तो इस किताब में है अच्छा आपके पास थोड़ा मैं से ले रहा हूँ कि भैया वो आने वाले तो जाने वाले हो गए अब अपना ये प्रोग्राम खत्म है जो फैकल्टी मेंबर है अपने आप करते रहें जी तो रिकॉर्डिंग कर दूंगा तो लोग तो बता दें हाँ अगर तो सुधाकर जी आपको बोल रहा है यार ये हाँ तो क्या भाई हाँ जी अरे गेट पे पहुंचने वाला नहीं हुआ अभी इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज में भी नहीं पहुंचा आपसे झूठ बोल रहा है अच्छा 2-3 मिनट तो पहुंचे जब अपने यहाँ से चलता है ना तब होता 2-3 मिनट
Professor Sudhakar, you can see the park. You can see and witness those spots also over there. It has been cleaned, and you can अपना तो unmute है ना? हाँ ये कोई दिक्कत. You can also see that there is a vehicle which is parked over here within the park, and that is of the Mali, the gardener. So he was expected to do something, but he has not arrived to do anything, and he has kept his vehicle as if that is going to do everything for. Such is the kind of activity and such is the kind of interest that people take. So very difficult for the leader to go ahead and do anything. Very difficult.
कहाँ खाने वाले कोई नहीं आए खाने वाले
It is basically it's marking the territory. You know, it is a animal instinct of marking your territory.
बोला था ना आज
Okay, okay.
So he has kept his bike.
Yeah,
You don't find another Mali or something.
gardener over there.
4/204 नहीं बना
Correct.
और खुद नहीं आ रहे हो तुमको और वीरेंद्र इन सबको बोला था, आप लोग कोई आए नहीं। कहाँ हो? घर कहाँ पे है? घर कहाँ? अरे कहाँ हो तुम? सही
कुछ
बात
लोग
हो
पहुंच
गया।
गए वहां पे, देखिए 1 बजे के हिसाब से। इधर बोल दीजिए
कहाँ
आ
हो?
रहे हैं।
कहाँ नहीं खा रहे हैं लोग?
कुछ लोग आए हैं सर आपके वहां पे।
पता
सर दिखाई दे रहे हैं ना फोटो में, इधर।
और यहाँ क्या है?
नहीं कुछ नहीं सर, मैं खाली बता रहा हूँ।
अरे जाके वेलकम कर लो, उनको कुछ दे दो, कैंची दिखा दो कि फीता काट दो, तो इसमें जरूरी नहीं दो। और क्या? हमारे यूपी का बिहेवियर एनालाइज करने के लिए
जी सर।
पढ़ना पढ़ना बहुत जरूरी है। पढ़ना पढ़े बगैर कोई यूपी को मैनेज नहीं कर सकता।
कोई और भी आया। आया। हाँ मैम, चाय पी ली पी ली। हम्म, ये कौन सी आ गई?
क्या काम मिल गया?
Sir, some two people are waiting, I think, sir. They are walking around there.
सब हो जाएगा, आपको फिक्र मत करो, सब हो जाएगा, तुम जाओ तो। हमारे बगैर ही सब होना है, हमें नहीं करना है कुछ। तिलक लगना है अजय के और बहुगुणा के, हमें कुछ नहीं करना है। नहीं, हम चाबी हम बैठे नहीं यहाँ, बंद हो जाएगा, चाबी दिए रहेंगे। बंद मत करना, बंद मत करना। ठीक। दरवाजे खड़ा हो, बाहर हो या अंदर? बाहर क्या करोगे बेटे, हम अंदर बैठे हुए हैं, हम सबको अटेंड कर रहे हैं। अच्छा, हाँ हाँ जी, बहुगुणा जी बताइए। पता, हमको पता नहीं था। आने का अरेंजमेंट कर रहे हैं। बहुगुणा जी, बेटे 12:30 बजे से लोग बाहर वेट कर रहे हैं, अब तुम 1 बजे आ रहे हो। सारे मेहमान चले जाएंगे तब आने से फायदा क्या होगा? सबको कितना पैसा हुआ? कितना पैसा होगा? बयालीस सौ तिरपन। यार तो कुछ हो। सेवा है तो भैया मेरा समय आ गया। पिछली बार 11 बजे से था, आपकी 10 बजे से था। चलिए पिछली बार तो बताइएगा जितना बताएंगे। अरे हम जा रहे हैं। अब कितना तुम्हारा नंबर बता दो। 4253। पिछली बार किया था आपने? अरे यार, तो अपने QR कोड या कुछ है दे देना यार, पेमेंट करो। ठीक। हाँ, नंबर दे। हेलो, तुम्हारे में तुम्हारे मोबाइल में QR कोड होगा, हमको तुरंत भेजा पड़ता है। QR कोड भैया वाला ये तुरंत नहीं, तुरंत नहीं। ठीक से कर लीजिए वहाँ पे। बताएंगे। अरे यार, 1 मिनट रुक जाओ, तुम लोग बोलना नहीं कुछ। तुम्हारा उसको ये क्या QR कोड दिख रहा है तो। हाँ, कितना हुआ? कितना हुआ? 4253। हाँ, 4253। तो भाई कोई आदमी यहाँ बैंक में आधा घंटे में जाए, गोविंदा जी के जब बोला था तो 7 फीटा रोड है तो 5 मिनट की। अब वो आ गया तो 12:30 बजे, 12 बजे से बोला तो 1 बजे।
चलो अभी ये बंद होगा, चाबी लेके नहीं पड़ेगी ना?
हाँ हाँ हाँ। चलो, 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 तुम बाहर चलो, हम इसको नहीं बंद कर देंगे तो तुम नहीं आओ। हम चलो। Sudhakar or
Shiv है. Okay, thank you, Tripathi ji and Sudhakar ji for looking at the inaugural ceremony of the park. Thank you, sir. Tripathi ji, यार चाय पी रहे हैं.
जी सर.
Sudhakar ji, thank you. Now it's for you people to decide how you like to proceed this FDP. If it happens, if it doesn't happen, Sudhanshu did not turn up on last Sunday. And he was to take class.
सुधाकर नहीं है, त्रिपाठी जी.
Sudhanshu.
सर, त्रिपाठी जी हैं.
अरे त्रिपाठी मुझे दिख रहा है यार, सुधाकर भी दिख रहे हैं पूरा.
अच्छा.
We need to visit soon the park.
हैं?
We need to visit soon, sir, with Dr. Ajay Prakash.
कह रहे हैं, we
I'll
need
be
to
visiting
visit
soon park.
soon the park.
हाँ.
आइए आइए डॉक्टर साहब
इसके
आइए.
पहले कि उजड़ जाए आगे देख ली.
No, sir. It has been started under good hands. It will be remaining. Don't worry.
Yes.
देखिए आज 30 लोग खाना बनाया था और लोग आए नहीं. जिनको बोला था बनाने के लिए वो खुद ही गायब. और सब ऑन ड्यूटी हैं आज.
Right.
ये ले लो.
Good, sir. All the best. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Yes,
Bye.
sir.
Bye.
Thank you, Shiv. Thank you.